the joke came about where wouldn't it be cool if we built an orbital satellite that had these pods with fryer oil inside, and then we would put a whole chicken inside and then fire it like you could order with an app, a chicken to go basically, and it would fire this pod through the atmosphere, and then the heat from re-entry would cook it perfectly so that it landed at your doorstep with a nice fully cooked chicken, or it could be like you could be anywhere in the world and order an orbital chicken. But the acronym for this joke was Flocker's Low Orbit Chicken Crisper Entry Rumination System, ergo Flockers.
All right, so we got good alpha coming today.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify that that was an inside joke in the parrot universe.
Well, you should
Uh,
make it a non-inside joke so I can order some chicken on the go.
right. And
Most
the joke,
expensive chicken you'll ever order.
well, that's part of the joke. It's like $1 million chicken, right? But it's cooked perfectly, and who can say that they've ordered a chicken from space, right?
Yeah, it's a thing you got to do at least once.
I think part of the joke was that my wife would have to be up there to like prepare the chickens and whatnot because she's like a known good cook in this area. So
Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah.
we always say that tokens have to have a lot of utility, and I think this is just it.
Only available to NFT holders.
Oh, well, maybe, give them a slight discount, but anyway.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. For anybody that hasn't heard from you guys before, if you just want to give a quick breakdown of what Parrotly Finance is, and then I guess probably introduce yourself as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Joshua Hood. I'm the co-CEO of Parrotly Finance. Appreciate you guys having us back. Enjoyed the first AMA that we had over here a lot. Got to meet some cool people, answer some really good questions, and looking forward to, chatting with you guys again. So, Parrotly Finance, our mission is to fill this void and bridge the gaps that currently exist between decentralized crypto usage and the centralization needed for large businesses and corporations. And we want to reduce the learning curve needed to be able to partake in the crypto space, allowing the masses to embrace the change. Um, we've been developing some products. The key one is the Flock Wallet. And the Flock wallet, it's got two sides to it, right? It has a personal side and a business side. The personal side will be released first, but the business side, a lot of DeFi projects are trying to take crypto to the real world, right? But the issue is they either lack a corporation backing, which apparently finances a registered C Corp in Delaware, USA, to enter into business agreements, or they lack the infrastructure necessary to allow businesses to properly integrate DeFi into their current existing structures, right? Right now, a business can manage funds in the real world using traditional banks, right? They have separate accounts that they can have for various things. They can assign multiple users to these accounts with varying levels of access. And there's no solution like that in DeFi, right? The closest thing you might have is Gnosis. So our Flock Wallet corporate side, businesses will be able to have multiple users assigned to it with multiple levels of authorization tiers. That way, transactions can be taking place in the fast pace required for business. Um, and then it'll have accounting features. So each transaction that's authorized or created by one of the authorized users generates an auditable accounting report event, right? And then they're able to export this accounting report with their current tax software. So they're able to just integrate it easily into their P&Ls and their when they go to file their quarterly or yearly taxes, depending on their business structure. Personal users will have access to that as well on the personal side. The Flock Wallet will generate a yearly report that you'll be able to just export. You'll have your P&Ls right there. Makes tax filing a whole heck of a lot easier. And there's a couple of proprietary features that we're not discussing yet, simply because DeFi space is very competitive, and we don't want anyone beating us to the punch with this. But one of the things that businesses will be able to do with the corporate side, aside from being able to just manage DeFi funds the way they manage fiat funds, is if they want to accept cryptocurrency as payment, they're able to choose which cryptocurrencies they receive, right? Because if I'm a business and I am wanting to accept payment for my goods or services, I don't want it being sent to me in a very volatile cryptocurrency, like a meme coin or something like that. What our system would do is, if a user wants to send a payment in a meme coin, it'll convert it to one of the accepted cryptocurrencies that the corporation or business is accepting. Provided there, of course, is enough enough liquidity in that meme coin to actually pay for it, right? If not, it'll reject the transaction and they'll have to choose a different payment method. This way, it provides that protection guarantee for the businesses while still allowing them to accept payment in cryptocurrency without having to go through like a third-party system like Stripe, which all Stripe does is the user sends them crypto like BTC, and then it will how to message pop up. Stripe, the user sends them BTC and then it gets converted to like US dollars, etc. So that just, and then Stripe sends the US dollars to the business, right? So that's like a third party system. They're not actually accepting, cryptocurrency. It's just another fiat payment method. So, but with the crypto space growing at the rate that it has been growing, it's going to be very important for businesses to be able to accept crypto as payment. You see the central banks, they're moving towards central bank digital currencies, and a lot of people aren't going to want to wind up using those. During our chat, we actually discussed why, but I see crypto becoming kind of like the people's currency, as more and more countries are switching over to a central bank digital currency, simply due to they may not want all of their transactions being seen by their government, etc. But that is kind of in a very nutshell. There's a lot of additional features and things that we're building with the Flock wallet, as well as additional products and services that we're creating. One of the key ones, and I'll touch on this briefly. I would say that if you guys want to know more, check out the first AMA that we had over here in the Cardinal House. I believe you guys have an archive for that. Is that correct?
Yep. That we did.
Yeah, we spent about an hour last time, really deep diving into a lot of the things that we're building, and I don't want to rehash all of that. There's some new things we want to chat about. So, but one of the things that I will touch on is that Parrotly Finance is working towards eventually creating our own validator node for the Polygon network. It's called the nesting protocol. And upon completion, users in the Flock wallet would be able to take their PBERB and Somatic and become delegators, processing transactions on the Polygon network and earning from fees for processing these transactions. So instead of just having, your money sit there, you can put it to work, no impermanent loss, because it's not like a liquidity pool. You're just actually processing transactions on the Polygon network and earning from those fees. And it's not something that people generally have access to, right? Because in order to have a validator node, you need a ton of Matic. You need a server system set up for it. You need to make sure you have multiple redundant servers. It's not something that a standard individual can do. So right there within the Flock wallet, users would be able to become delegators and actually earn from these fees.
So what would be required for that? Like, would there be a certain amount of Matic? Would there be a, because obviously you have that barrier to entry outside of it, but like what would those parameters look like?
Well, for the users becoming delegators, there really wouldn't be any requirements or barriers for that, right? Because you would take whatever amount of PBurb and equivalent amount of Matic, because it goes at a 1-for-1 ratio, right? And then you simply delegate that towards into the nesting protocol and become a delegator for the validator node. And then whatever the validator node produces, whatever your percentage of delegation would determine your percentage of the fees generated that would come to you as a payout. So obviously, like the more you delegate, the higher your percentage of the share would be. But the nesting protocol would pay out about 95% of all fees generated to the delegators within the Flock wallet. So it's kind of like I guess something that would be more familiar to individuals is if you're providing liquidity for a liquidity pool, your percentage of that pool determines the percentage of fees that you receive from transactions in that pool, right? The only, the downside there is you expose yourself to impermanent loss. It's similar with a validator service and delegators. Delegators, whatever percentage they're adding to the validator node in terms of Matic, because Matic is proof of stake, right? So whatever percentage they're adding determines what percentage of the fees generated get paid out to them.
Gotcha. That's a really interesting concept. So essentially making a group delegator node.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But,
what are kind of the yields on delegator nodes on the Polygon network?
It varies, right? It depends on how much traffic is routing through your node. The node space, they only accept a certain amount of validator nodes, and generally they give out those slots to the projects that actually, or sorry, the validator nodes that have the most Matic, right? And we're like, I'm not sure if I can say this or not. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. So I have actually, I made Sim over at Sphere sign an NDA so that we could really dig into the nitty gritty about everything that we're working towards, and they're very interested in basically adding a good chunk of thematic from what they have towards this nesting protocol. So we feel that we'll be able to come in there with a significant amount of Matic and be able to get one of those validator spots. It's going to take time for us to put this together and really work out the numbers. But this is something that we're working towards. And once we're able to get a lot of the details hashed out, we would have actual numbers in that regard to discuss.
Interesting. That's super cool.
Yep. I'm excited to see where that goes, because that's something new that I had not realized you guys were building on the Flock wallet. Just some more utility.
Yep. We're always adding additional utility methods for what we're building. There's like right now we have the Flock wallet in development, but we also have another product that's currently in development and will actually probably come out before the Flock wallet. But that would also provide additional utility for our token. So I just haven't received the green light to chat about that yet. Uh, but that should be actually be out before the Flock wallet. So we're all of that to basically say we are always working on creating additional utility for PBurb. Um, it's just one of those things where, as a corporation, we can't tell you what we're going to do if it is something that could create a promise of profit, right? Or be considered insider trading.
Mm-hmm.
So like just as an example, if you guys like, let's say hypothetically, we were working on like a deal that would have Bieber get used in like transactions on Amazon, just as an example. That if we announce something like that prior to it actually like contracts being signed or everything like that, it would be considered insider corporate trading, right? Because you guys would be able to start buying it now, knowing that the price is going to skyrocket afterwards, right? That's so we have to be careful with that. As a corporation, you have to meet the SEC regulations because what we're working towards building would be impossible as a DeFi project, right? DeFi projects, they're able to say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, and give you all of those insider tips, those promises of profit, because it's difficult for the SEC to go tracking down anonymous DeFi project leaders, right? But when you're a corporation, it's not very hard for them to find you. And but on the flip side, without that backing of the legitimate, corporation and standing with the government, we would not be able to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And I know you guys during our chat got a little bit of alpha in that regard, so you understand why we need that corporate backing in order to move forward with our plans. But
There's certainly a lot of things coming up that without any support, as Parrotly grows would not be very possible with the current regulation.
oh yeah, yeah. Um,
So
but
real
sorry, go
quick,
ahead.
yeah, what licensures are required for, the things that you talked about regarding, like, is there any licensures that are required as far as um the Flock wallet? What am I developing a delegator node for the Flock wallet?
So licenses for delegator node on DeFi, a good catch-all to have for that would be the the licenses required to basically, well, that's actually not even really required because we're not controlling or processing other people's money, right? Now, with the business side of the Flock wallet, we're going to need financial licenses in place in order for customers to make payments to businesses, right? You got to have the financial licenses required for that. And they're not cheap, they're a bit of a headache to get, but in order to properly do it, you need those financial licenses. As far as the delegator node, from a corporate standpoint, you don't really need licenses for that, right? Because you're not holding their funds. It's a simple smart contract interaction, right? When they stake their PBurb Matic in the validator node to provide that Matic, but they can pull that out at any time. They retain sole control over their funds. Same thing with like custodial versus non-custodial wallets, right? If you're a custodial wallet, then you need all of these various systems in place. You need all the, licenses, et cetera, in order to be in control of an individual's seed phrase, ergo their funds, yada, yada, yada. With non-custodial, you don't really need those licenses because the user retains full control. So as long as a user retains full control of their funds and you do not have control and or access to it, then you don't really need anything in that regard.
Okay, interesting. So as far as the, I guess, moves, like segueing from that, as far as the um transactions between, like, would there need to be a brokerage license held, for on the business side of things, accepting payments and stuff?
Yeah, that you would need to have a payment processor license, right? Because you're accepting funds, you're temporarily in control of funds, right? Because the funds move through your router. The consumer sends the cryptocurrency, and then if you need to convert it, you know, you're temporarily in control of those funds. And plus, you want to have the license because if you're interacting with other businesses and corporations, you got to have it. It's just like Stripe. They have their financial licenses because they take in the cryptocurrency, then they sell it for USD, then they send the USD to the business. While we're not doing that third party step, um, I feel that just to make sure everything is covered as it should be, we'll want to retain those licenses.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it would be really bad if that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
Right.
better safe than sorry. That's for sure.
That's our whole premise, honestly, that sums it up in a sentence. Like, could we build a good chunk of what we're working towards without, following all these rules and regulations? Yeah, absolutely. We probably could. But the question is, how long can you get away with skirting the SEC or operating in a gray area before eventually, if you get big enough, you get enough attention, they're going to look into you, right? You start processing a bunch of payment transactions or things like that. They're going to come knocking. And if you're not operating correctly, they'll shut you down. I mean, just look at Block.one. They wound up paying, what was it, like $24 million in fees to the SEC, and that was the SEC being nice. You see it more and more. They're going after a lot of these projects or companies that aren't following the law to the letter. And it's tricky because they don't have a whole lot of defined regulations regarding crypto usage yet. So you almost have to err on the side of caution and be overly prepared for any adjustments that they may make, any new rulings that come out of ongoing lawsuits, etc. And we feel it's better to just be safe rather than sorry.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, and I think that most projects out there are not taking that approach, and they might be okay with it, but it could come out to bite them in the butt later on. And I think that better safe than sorry. That approach is definitely good, and I kind of want to move away from the regulation side of things and move on to a topic that's a little more fun. I heard Sphere got a $500,000 grant from the Polygon Network just for their amount of, I think it's their market cap or total value locked. When you guys, or I guess when you guys get to the size where they're going to start giving out grants, are you familiar with that? I should probably start with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm familiar. I'm a mod over in Sphere, and I work behind the scenes with Sim on a lot of things, so I'm very familiar.
Gotcha. Yeah. Where or do you have plans on where that? I think the first tier is like $100,000 over the course of 6 months. Do you know? Do you have any ideas on where that would go?
So we have actually a couple of different ways to secure funding, and grants is one of them, right? As far as applying for a grant with Polygon or other DeFi based companies, we're kind of waiting a little bit on that. We want to get the product we're working on currently and the Flock wallet. We want to get those out so that people can start using them and we have a demonstratable product. Once we have that, and we can show, hey, here's the value of what we've built. You can see it. Here's what we're adding to it. But we need a grant to get there, additional resources, yada, yada. That's the point where we'll start looking into grants. If we did receive like a grant, it would likely go to hiring additional developers. Right now, we have 5 on the team. We're currently interviewing a 6th right now, and some very talented devs. One of them's actually listening in to the AMA right now. But very talented devs. But with the scope of what we're working towards, I'm very much of the opinion, the more the merrier when it comes to developers. I myself am not a developer. That's why I have our chief technical officer, and he sits on the board of directors, Matt Merrill. He is the dev whiz, right? And so he oversees the dev team. But majority of the funds, if we received a grant, would likely go to expanding our dev roster. I would be a very happy camper if I could have, a staff of over 20 devs, right? Because in my opinion, the more devs you have, the faster you're able to produce what you're working towards, and the faster the timeline speeds up, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a cool, a great way to spend the grant. Continue
Yeah.
just building out products. I like
yeah.
it.
Every dollar, because as you guys know, PBurb has a 4% buy tax on it. Every dollar of that either goes to operational expenses or development. It doesn't go into I have not. I'm currently personally operating in the red when it comes to Parrotly Finance, right? I have over 26,000 of my personal dollars wrapped up into this so far. I don't take anything from it, because I'm a firm believer in, during the first year, it is essential to reinvest every dollar that comes in as profit generation back into the business, back into the corporation. Um, and that's why we didn't allocate any free tokens to devs, right? I had to buy every single token I own, because that's diluting it, right? The founders, they could then turn around and sell it, and then that's pulling money out of the system instead of adding money to it. And we like to put our money where our mouth is. If we're building something and we want to show that we're equally happy to put our money into it.
Yeah, I think that's a really unique outlook on it. At least as far as the DeFi space goes.
Yeah, we felt that it was. I haven't really seen any other projects. I know that there's a couple that never actually allocated any tokens to their devs, but it's not common. Let's just put it that way. There's usually a good chunk of supply in reserve or things like that, or a percentage allocated to the team, yada yada. Like when we were building this, I actually had a couple of contractors who worked on like the art or things like that, asked to be paid in our token because they wanted to be in the ecosystem. And I was like, no, I'll pay you fiat, if you choose to put that into the token, feel free, but I'm not paying you in the token. I had a couple projects actually come to us and say, hey, could we purchase over the counter directly from you guys and, work out like this deal? And I'm like, we don't have tokens that we can over the counter sell you. We have 5% of the supply set aside in a multi-sig, and that's earmarked for providing liquidity to exchanges. That's not earmarked for over-the-counter sells. We don't have access to that.
The last thing you want is another situation coming up.
Yeah. So If I could, I would like to take a couple moments to talk about some things that have happened since we were last here talking with you guys.
Please.
Yes, let's get into it.
So, Apparently Finance has a partnership with Forint Finance, Forint Finance. Feel free to check them out. One of their CEO is actually a good friend of mine at this point. Like, it started off as a business, relationship, and then, over time, really great guy. We kind of just became friends, and that happens when you're working closely with people. But through our partnership with Forint Finance, we have an app on the Google Play Store that allows you to seamlessly purchase PBIRB from across 5 different chains. It is a cross-chain router, and it has a built-in fiat on-ramp through the ramp system. So you could actually perform the third-party KYC with Ramp, which, if you're unfamiliar with Ramp, it's similar to MoonPay, just less fees. So you can perform that KYC and then purchase directly with your debit or credit card. They also, within the app, you have the ability to purchase a crypto gift card with a debit or credit card, no KYC required. It's important to make sure that people have the option to not perform KYC if they choose. So that's on the Google Play Store. The Apple iOS version, well, we're waiting on Apple for that to come out. They're very, they take forever to approve new apps. But that is in progress. If you haven't checked out the app and you have an Android device, you should. It's really cool. Big shout out to our partners over at Forint Finance for working with us to put that together. It's pretty slick. I love using it when QuickSwap's giving me issues, because sometimes my MetaMask wallet, I can't wait until there's a better wallet out there. Would be nice. Hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But MetaMask sometimes will like just straight up lock me out of QuickSwap. It'll stop connecting and things like that. And I'm like, oh, well, good thing there's an app for that. um, So yeah, that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And then the second thing is we actually migrated 35% of our liquidity pool in the Parrotly Matic pool over to a new pool. And the links to those pools and everything are in our Discord, but 35% of our liquidity got migrated to USD Plus. If you're unfamiliar with USD Plus, it is an overly collateralized stablecoin. It is backed by USDC, USDT, and DAI. And what they do is they take the collateralized stablecoins and then they farm them on various exchanges, protocols, etc., in a safe manner to generate yield. And then that yield is paid out as using a rebase mechanism to holders and liquidity pools. So essentially what that means is our liquidity pool actually grows. The USD plus in our PBIRB to USD plus pool increases over time. It actually has an increase event that occurs every single day. And what that means is, in addition to providing stability against the volatility of Matic, it also grows with time. Just as an example, if nobody bought or sold any PBIRB in that particular pool over the course of a year, it would generate an average, according to Overnight Finance, the individuals who run USD Plus, it would generate an average growth of about 11.5% of USD Plus in that pool. It's a forced appreciation aspect.
Yeah, that's super awesome.
Yeah, we think that's pretty cool. I know when we were last here, we were talking about how we're going to be utilizing quantum liquidity with Sphere, right? And that would provide that liquidity pool growth. And that is something that is still on the table. We're waiting for them to finish a lot of various items on their docket. We had actually applied, got accepted, and requested them to make the vault for us to use quantum liquidity a little over a month ago. And had they been able to onboard us right then and there, the drop that we experienced due to Matic would have been a lot less. Due to the pairing in Matic, we saw our liquidity pool go from 780,000 all the way down to 200,000. I ran the numbers. If 35% of our liquidity had been over there in the quantum liquidity in a stable coin during that time, our liquidity would have only dropped down to about 400,000. So that it's a big difference, right? And so we went ahead and had that partnership with Overnight Finance for the USD Plus pairing, to give us that stability, just in case Matic drops further. And we still have the larger chunk of our liquidity in the Matic side, right? So if Matic begins a recovery here, we can still capture the upswing from that. Because obviously as Matic goes up, if you're paired to it, the value of your token goes up as well. And through arbitrage trading, the USD Plus pool would rise as well, right? Because if the Matic side is higher because Matic has been recovering, it gives people the opportunity to purchase on the USD Plus side and then sell onto the Matic side. It keeps the pools balanced. So right now, I believe our balance rate, let me see here. It's very close right now. It's like 1.45% difference between the pools. And so the arbitrage is working well in that regard, and it's providing that stability. And it actually there's a holder who wound up selling quite a large chunk a couple days ago, and the USD Plus pool functioned just as it should. It provided a very quick arbitrage bounce back, which allowed the price to recover the percentage in difference between the USD Plus pool. Arbitrage events occurred. People bought on the Matic side to sell on the USD Plus side, right? So it provided that recovery there. So that's the stability in action. You guys were able to see it right there in action, how it works, how it provides the stability. It reduces the impact of large sells. It reduces just that volatility. So we're very excited about that. And with quantum liquidity being on the table, we have the opportunity to then move the USD Plus pool that we have to Tattoo Swap if we choose, and then it would actually double farm itself. So instead of like 11.5% APY, it would become closer to like 23% APY for the USD Plus side of our pool. So while we were waiting for Sphere to get quantum liquidity ready, we decided to position ourselves ahead of time so that we could actually take better advantage of the quantum liquidity service that they're going to be offering. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, those are some big changes coming up. Big changes. I'm excited to see whether you guys are able to move in like kind of the Sphere direction, or what the deal with that is. 'Cause I know you said it, had they been ready, you would have already been on board and it would have saved you guys a little bit of hassle. But now at this point with Matic where it is, you're running into a point where it might be worth sticking with Matic for a little bit longer. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that we wanted to provide a hard floor. So everything that's still remaining in the Matic pool, we actually don't have access to. We burnt those liquidity tokens. So that is there forever. Now,
Mm-hmm.
over time, as our USD plus pool grows, and the value of the token goes up, and tokens are coming out of the Matic side, and then, just we'll run through a little hypothetical example real quick to make this easy to understand. Let's say the value of Matic is recovering. Let's say it goes back to, near its all-time high, around like 270 or whatever its all-time high was, right? The value people would, as it's going up in value, people would be buying tokens on the USD plus side, and selling onto the Matic side. And then, if Matic starts coming back down, people would be buying on the Matic side and moving tokens over to the USD plus side, right? Just due to the nature of arbitrage. So over time, you'll see those liquidity pools balance out. And instead of being 65% in the Matic pool and 35% in USD plus, you would see it become closer to an equilibrium rate of like 50-50, right? Over time, as our supply reduces through the deflationary mechanism, the tokens in those pools will reduce, but, the Matic and the USD plus in those pools, increases over time due to the USD plus growth, right? So we are poised to take advantage of a recovery in Matic, right? Because of that liquidity that's in there. But having the stability of the USD plus to kind of temper that volatility. Yes, just like it tempers the volatility when it's going down, it'll kind of temper the volatility when it's going up, which helps reduce parabolic events. Because parabolic events are very dangerous with a token. Anytime you see a token go parabolic, you know that there's going to be a 70 to 90% pullback coming after it stops its run, right? It's just the nature of crypto. It's the nature of things. Whenever people are suddenly up 100%, they're going to start taking some profits, as they should, because that's smart investing. So it'll temper the down, it'll temper the up, which will make it more stable. And when we're working towards building a transactional token that's fully backed, we need that stability, right? And through reduction of the supply, because that 2% burn on every cell will eventually burn our supply down 50%. I intend on letting it burn to between 350 billion to about 450 billion tokens, which is actually more than 50%. But that is what I want our total circulating supply to wind up as, because we need enough supply for companies that want to utilize our nesting protocol to be able to purchase a good amount of PPER, companies that are using other various services and products to be able to purchase and hold on to a chunk of it, right, for either profit share, et cetera, yada, yada. Plus, we also want to make sure there's still enough tokens for users to, buy and sell it. But that circulating supply range is what we're targeting. And the purpose of launching it at our initial starting supply versus just launching it at that supply is we wanted to give early adopters the opportunity to get a bigger piece of the pie, right? So inverse to a rebase token, which generates more and more slices of pie, and to use that analogy, a deflationary token takes away pieces of the pie, which means that you wind up having a larger slice of that total pie, right? So in a sense, it's a way to kind of reward early adopters who want to maybe just, buy in a whitelist slot and then sit on it forever, right? Or people who want to come in, early and then just sit on it, right? Because if you bought, let's say, 0.5% of the supply, by the time we're done letting the supply reduce, you'll now own, like almost 2% of the supply, right? So when we're building what we're building, and aiming for a fairly large market cap, having a good chunk of that supply can be a very beneficial thing to have.
Yeah.
Good way to put it. So you don't say anything
Anything
too
else?
anything too what am I trying to say? Substantial that could get you in SEC trouble, or can't say it's
Yeah.
blowing up, but
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, being corp, in order to not trigger a security by failing the Howey test with the SEC. There's certain things we have to be very careful with how we say it, right? Because
Yep.
just as an example, I can't say, oh, we're, anything below, X amount is FUD, or, anything less than X market cap is, I can't say things like that, right? Because that's considered a promise of profit, right? And that triggers the security aspect. And the SEC doesn't like to play around with that, and that's actually how they've been nailing a lot of these various projects is with those kind of statements. With promises of profit, with just as an example, like if you made an NFT and then you told people, oh, you can stake it, it's going to get you X amount of money, based off of yada yada yada. If you said things like that, well, that's promise of profit. You would have to register those NFTs as a security if you were a corporation or if you were doxxed and they could find you, right? That's, US based or any of the other countries that share that. My mind's drawing a blank on the word. But basically, any of the ones that work together with that. So that's just, yeah, you got to be careful with that. So, but yeah, so that's the items that we wanted to kind of update you guys on. Kind of wanted to talk about the nesting protocol a little bit more. There are some additional. Oh, I'm kind of. I'm trying to think if I can. No, I don't think I can yet because I'm not allowed to even discuss it with the projects that I'm eyeballing for integration. Yeah, so there is a new product that we are working on building alongside the Flock wallet. That's all I can really say about that, at least until the other board of directors gives me the green light to actually talk about it. And well, once that's out, it will actually provide additional utility for PBERB.
Okay.
So we'll
Is
have.
it
Go ahead.
Was it integrated with the Flock wallet? Can you talk about that? Or is it completely separate?
Well, it's a standalone that will be integrated with the
Okay.
Flock wallet.
Gotcha.
Right. I can say that much.
Okay.
But we wanted to get that out and rolling as a separate item, standalone, that other projects can start using, and to provide that utility. Because the Flock wallet, when it first comes out, the personal side, yes, it'll be a fantastic wallet to use. You have all the various chains already programmed in there, tokens pre-populate, etc. A lot of ease of use features like the built-in cross-chain aggregator instead of having a simple, singular chain swap router like MetaMask does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which they charge too much for. But a lot of ease of use features like that, which from things like being able to import multiple seed phrases and tab back and forth between them instead of having to open separate instances of Chrome or, import different seed phrases to your MetaMask, you'll be able to just use it all right there, right? Which will make it easier for users to start being more secure. Instead of having a seed phrase go and then, they have to consider the other accounts potentially compromised. They can lock them behind separate seed phrases if they want, right? Instead of, it's just more secure, and it allows you to manage multiple seed phrases from one spot. Um,
Hmm.
so lots of other various features like that, and that'll be out with the personal side. But the utilization that we're building into Parrotly, it wouldn't come with that release, right? Yes, we have that proprietary feature, the NVS, that's coming out with the first version of the Flock wallet, and that'll be pretty big, in our humble opinion, because it removes the ceiling, um, the glass ceiling, if you will, that hovers over any DeFi project. I can't say more about it, uh, but it is really cool stuff. We're being very tight-lipped about it because we're honestly shocked that no one has actually made this yet, because
Hmm.
it seems like a no-brainer. It's anytime we have someone sign an NDA, for business relations, or if they're coming on as a developer and we tell them what the NVS is, they all say the same thing. They're like, "Oh my God, this is exactly what crypto needs. Why hasn't this been done yet?" And so it seems like a no-brainer, and so we have to be very tight-lipped about it, until that's out. But all of that to say, we wanted to also create a product that would start creating the utility for PBurb while we continue development of the Flock wallet, rolling out additional upgrade features that then provide additional utility to PBurb, since we knew that when the first version of the Flock wallet comes out, it won't have anything that really utilizes the PBurb token yet. So that's why we're doing it like that.
Gotcha. I'm for one, I'm really excited to use the Flock wallet whenever it comes out and trying to experiment and see everything, and how everything looks and it is integrated with itself. And I know there's going to be, once that's released, there's going to be a ton of things afterwards, but I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise. I got one more question before we can move on to some audience questions.
Yeah.
Going back to the burning side of things, you mentioned you want to burn it down to, what was it, like 400 billion or 450 billion of circulating supply?
Between 350 billion to 450 billion. What we actually wind up landing on will be somewhere in that range. And it's determined based off of a couple of different factors, like how much supply, early holders are still aggressively sitting on and not putting back into circulation. Um, so, because we're obviously going to need a certain level of token liquidity in order to operate with what we're trying to do. With businesses needing to purchase a certain amount of PBurb in order to cover their fee for utilizing, Flock wallet integration, things like that, right? So we need to make sure that we actually have that available for them to purchase. So if early adopters are more giving with their cells, so to speak, and putting those tokens back into circulation, then theoretically we can burn off more of the supply, right? Because they're not hoarding PBurb. But if people are hoarding PBurb, then obviously, we would have to go with the higher end of that supply so that we still have the liquidity necessary to perform in the manner that we're working towards.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're really going to see who's got the diamond hands and who doesn't.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
more getting towards, once you do reach that point, is that 2% cell tax that is burned, is that just going to be taken out completely, or what's your plan with that?
Yeah, so both our taxes have planned obsolescence, right? Um, it's hard coded in the contract that we can reduce and then eliminate it, but we can never increase it once. So our buy tax, for example, as Parrotly produces products that generate revenue, that generate that income that allows us to pay for operating expenses, we plan on reducing that buy tax, right? So, there'll be a day where it drops to 3%, then there'll be a day where it drops to 2%, then there'll be a day where eventually it goes away, right? We also have it coded in there that we can have a tax-free holiday, which, we are planning, where we can temporarily suspend buy taxes, right? But, and then at the end of the day, turn it back on, but it would be at the level that it was at prior to us suspending it, right? So we can never increase it, is basically what I'm saying. But yes, we do plan for the tax to go away once we're generating revenue that covers our expenses. Then the sell burn functions similarly. We can reduce it, but never increase it. So as we start getting closer to our supply target, we can reduce it to slow down the burn, or then just shut it off. And once it's shut off, once it's gone, it's gone. At that point, there would be no additional burning unless we, had a mechanism in place to do like a buyback, and then chose to burn it. But at that point, we probably wouldn't, considering that one, we burned 1% of the supply when we first launched, to kind of kickstart that. And then two, once we're at that target supply, we need those tokens, right? We need to have that transactional vehicle. So, yeah, they do have planned obsolescence.
Gotcha. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. We can move on to the audience questions now. First question is from John Richter. I think I said that right. And he asks, are there certain business sectors you plan on focusing on integrating the Flock wallet with first?
So as far as particular targets, we're going to be targeting companies that deal with a lot of user-based transactions. One of the hypothetical examples I like to use when we're just discussing how the mechanics of everything works, would be with things like companies that have recurring subscriptions, like Netflix as an example. High volume of user transactions like shopping sites, a lot of internet-based services, because those are the easiest to integrate. Now, we do also plan on targeting like, brick and mortar locations, companies like that, because one of, I hate to almost use this terminology, but one of the quote unquote benefits, I guess, of the whole situation over the last couple of years with the pandemic is a lot of shops are looking for different ways other than paper money and coins, or yada yada, to process transactions, right? You've seen a big rise of, like, I went to a restaurant a couple weeks back, and they gave me a QR code on the bottom of the receipt that I could scan and pay with like Google Pay or Apple Pay, right? So things like that provide the opportunity and the potential for us to come in, integrate them with the corporate side Flock wallet, and say, now users can simply scan this and pay you directly with their crypto via the Flock wallet system, right? So there's a whole lot of opportunity there. So initially we would start off targeting like the internet-based services, internet-based consumer goods, because those will be the easiest to integrate right off the bat and get them lined up. And then once we have those lined up, we can go to the businesses that are more brick and mortar and say, hey, look at how much in sales X, Y, and Z companies have done utilizing this service. There's a whole market here that you are not tapped into. We'll have metrics to provide them, metrics to show. And that will make it easier for us to then convert those brick and mortar locations to this payment structure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good plan of action to integrate with both the brick and mortar and then the online space as well, to capture the widest audience as possible. I like it.
Yep. Yeah, and we actually have a pilot partner, Room 101, And when the corporate side of the Flock wallet is finished, they have already agreed to even accept PBERB as payment for their goods and services. And as a true pilot partner, right? And that allows us to gather those metrics so that we can then go to other companies and say, look at how this works. You can see the system in action. You can, once you have that demonstratable product and you have those first couple of pilot partners, it becomes easier and easier and easier to onboard new clients with each additional client you have. Because from a business standpoint, I don't, and like I've had a couple of projects come to me and say, "Hey, does Parrotly want to, invest in our project XYZ? Blah 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 blah." And I always ask them, "Okay, what's the metrics? What companies are utilizing you currently? What kind of yield do they get? What?" Any business wants to see the metrics. Otherwise, it's a very high risk situation for them. If it's not tested, if there's no proof in the pudding, so to speak. I think I just dated myself with that saying. Uh, it becomes difficult to onboard them if you don't have that. So we feel that that's the best approach. Um, and yeah, so appreciate the question, John Richter. It's a very good one. I saw that there was another question right above that in regards to from Stealthy in regards to the auditable tax accounting report. Yes, we would generate it so that you could choose to export it to import it into QuickBooks. Since that is one of the most common personal tax softwares, right? So it just makes sense to make sure we have that.
Gotcha. Next question is from AJBTNT. He asks, will the wallet have the capability to hold all current cryptocurrencies and NFTs? And if so, will the two be separated for security?
I like that question. That's a good one. Yeah, so it's similar to how your MetaMask functions, right? You can hold all your various cryptocurrencies and NFTs in there. And we're going to be operating in a similar way, right? You'll have your various chains, you'll have it all there. So the Flock wallet, there's several different ways that you'll be able to access it, right? There's going to be a web browser dashboard, a Chrome extension. You'll have your app for Android and iPhone. You'll have all these different ways, but on one of the key reasons to also use the web browser for it is if you're familiar with the bank or if you're familiar with Xerion or any of those things that display all of your assets across all the various chains, like Xerion even has an NFTs tab where it shows you the floor price of that NFT and displays that as a dollar value for the NFT, right? We're going to have a dashboard similar to that so you can see your portfolio at a glance, so to speak, instead of having to switch back from this chain to that chain to this chain and mentally remember what the value of your holdings was on that chain. And all of these numbers will not pull from places like CoinGecko and CMC, because one of the things I absolutely despise about MetaMask is the only way that you're going to see a value of a token in your wallet on MetaMask is if they get listed on CoinGecko, which CoinGecko, we're not too thrilled with them. We've applied like 4 times now, and they still haven't listed PBERB. But so they're kind of slow to react to that. So what our wallet will do for that is when it's displaying the values, it'll pull the info directly from the blockchain. So like our bots that display price and everything in our Discord server, most price bots that are made for Discord servers pull the info from CoinGecko. Why? Because it's easiest to do that, right? Our bots actually pull the info directly from the blockchain. So it looks at the liquidity pool, it sees how much PBERB is in there, it sees how much Matic or USD Plus is in there. It says, okay, what is the price of Matic? And then it multiplies the Matic pool, then divides it by the PBERB pool and displays the price, right? So that's how our wallet will function for that. Instead of trying to pull values from like CoinGecko or CMC, that way you can see the value of all of your tokens. As long as there's a liquidity pool, you'll be able to see that value. So it takes the guesswork out of it. And it's just a happy user feature, right? I hate being inconvenienced. I've been in crypto for quite some time, and all of these various wallets, there's always something that seems to be missing from them, right? You can get one thing from SafePal app, or that you can't get from MetaMask, or you can get something from MetaMask that you can't get from, Trust Wallet, and it's irritating, right? So we're trying to make this really just the best solution, for storing and viewing and looking at your crypto and NFT holdings. But yeah, definitely you'll be able to see and access like all of your cryptos across the various chains and your NFTs within the Flock wallet.
The amount of time you're going to save me from having to switch networks to see where everything's at.
I've got a few different wallets that each have stuff on a few different chains, and it is a nightmare just to even look at what I have.
Yep. And it's just one of those things that's irritating, right? It's inconvenient. And like I said, I don't like being inconvenienced.
Yeah. The last question from AJB is, what fiat can be held in the wallet, and will you allow that fiat to earn interest? And then at what point in time will fiat be protected or insured?
Okay, so it gets tricky when you're referring to like actual fiat versus something like a stable coin, right? Because generally speaking, in order to well, I shouldn't say that. I should say that if you are a registered business, you need to meet AML standards, which, the anti-money laundering, the KYC, all of that sort of stuff. Um, there, I know that for the corporate side, there is the KYC integration. For the personal side, there's the option to perform KYC in order to access future services that are going to be integrated to the wallet. Um, I'm trying to think of what I am and am not allowed to discuss regarding the future upgrades. Give me 1 second. I don't see the harm in it. All right. So in the future, you'll have a user dashboard, right, where you create your user password. It allows you to access your various seed phrases, etc. We are working with a third-party solution, a highly reputable one, for that user interface and data storage. That way, we know their security systems are top-notch. They provide that sort of service for many top-name companies. They're very expensive, but it's worth it to make sure users are secure. So with that being said, is there potential to, with providing the option to do KYC, to allow actual fiat holdings? Yes. As far as what level of integration or insurance that will be, that's not really something that I can talk about yet. That's more towards product Series C, which I'm definitely not allowed to talk about right now. But we do have plans in regards to that. So let me just clarify for people who may be new to what we're building. I have a roadmap that goes out over 20 years for PARROTLY Finance. Just as a reminder, we weren't given any free tokens, so there's no way that we can profit from this until we grow the corporation into something quite special, whether that's IPO'd on the stock market, at which point then my equity share would actually have value, and I could finally see returns from everything that I'm building. But either way, our roadmap extends out quite far. I have a couple of ultimate goals that I want to work towards, and until those goals are accomplished, I will not be happy. I will not be done. I will continue building. We will continue building, but due to the nature of some of it, I cannot discuss it. And so one of the things I cannot discuss is product Series C. And in order to answer your question fully, I would have to discuss that. But just know that there are plans regarding that. So I'm sorry it's not like a direct answer to that question. I wish I could. But that goes back to that that life insurance policy we were joking about in that side chat we had the other night.
Yeah.
But
Interesting. Yeah. I really like your very long-term thinking, and I think that a lot of projects lack that. One question that, if we have like extra time at the end of the AMA and we need a couple filler questions, sometimes I'll ask, where do you see this going in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? And then, they say 1 year, they usually have a good answer. 2 years, most of the time they actually don't have a good answer. 3 years, almost never. 5 years, I've never. And then you guys,
Well,
20 years out, it's like exactly where you're headed, and I like that a lot.
I think,
appreciate it.
yeah, the most interesting one was, what do you see yourself in 10 years? They were talking a lot about sustainability, and the answer to that was 10 years is a long time in the crypto space. I don't know, like, I can't tell you, if we'll be here or not. And I was like, well, that's a very interesting thing to say after talking about sustainability for, the past half hour.
Yeah, no, I know exactly where I plan to be in 10 years. I know where I plan to be in 15 years. I know where I plan to be in 20 years, in regards to Parrotly Finance. So it's like, yeah, but we can chat about that if there's need for filler questions at the end. But
We're already beyond an hour, and unless you want to make this a 4-hour AMA, then I don't think we need the
no,
filler questions.
no. The longest I will ever go with an AMA is like 90 minutes, right? Because I personally don't have the time to sit there for 3 hours in an AMA.
Yeah.
So
We'll answer just a couple more questions, and then can call it a wrap. The next one is, with what you're describing with the Flock wallet, it seems like it can be ambitious enough to dethrone MetaMask. Is this the long-term play? And most importantly, what's your vision for marketing the product? And it can be a make it or break it in this industry.
I like that question. Thank you, Zippy. So yeah, we plan on turning a couple of different things into relics. Gnosis, we plan on making that a relic. We plan on making MetaMask a relic. Yes, I know they have a big backing, a large market share, but when you can easily import a MetaMask wallet into the Flock wallet, and when you consider that in order to access the NVS proprietary feature and all the other things that we are building, you're going to need to use it. We already have a very large project that plans on integrating the entirety of the Flock wallet into all of their systems. That would be Sphere. And so with the projects needing to utilize the Flock wallet to access the NVS system, we see that holders will wind up adopting it simply due to wanting to use the various projects they're invested in to the fullest, right? So we're not targeting individual users. We're targeting the projects they're invested in. Because if their projects start utilizing this so that they can access these features to remove the ceiling that's holding down their growth, the users will adopt, plain and simple. And our goal is to make it as easy to adopt and make the switch as possible. When it's as simple as downloading an app and then entering in, importing your wallet, and everything's just there. as soon as they spend 5 minutes just testing that, and then they're like, oh, shoot, I can see the value of XYZ, and I couldn't see that over there. Oh, you mean they have an integrated cross-chain router instead of a single-chain router? Holy crap, that makes it easier for me to simply be like, oh, I want to take my token that's on this chain and swap it for this new project that I want to invest in on another chain. I can do that right here in the app. Hell yeah, sign me up. So, yeah, we're approaching marketing a little bit different with that. We're not going after the person by person. We're going after the projects. And once we can talk about the NVS, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to tell you guys all about it. I can't wait to spill that, right? And you'll see why we're going after the projects instead of the people.
I
I
think
think that's definitely a unique strategy that could capture such a massive audience with what you guys are doing. I like it a lot.
I love the way you guys are going about all this. I really do. The fact that you guys are going after these bigger projects, one, it's going to be a lot better spent time because you're going to bring in many people for the same, for the same amount of time it would take, 50 people to join. And then also you have that use case of look at how many things we're bringing to Parrotly, and then, well, not only you have to have our wallet to use our services, but it's like they're kind of separate, but you're integrating them in such a great way that you're kind of required to come to you for those, for the wallet, and for the businesses have to come to you in order to use these services that you're going to be providing, and they're services that they obviously want.
Right. Exactly. Like when Sim signed the NDA, right? And I told him about the NVS. That's when, like, you might have caught it. I think it was like a week and a half ago when they also launched the cross-chain app in general chat. He was talking about people don't even realize it, but when Parrotly finishes some of their utilities, they're going to be integrated in the Sphere ecosystem. That was his hint right there, saying that, hey, by the way, and when you look at the user base that Sphere has, right? The problem with marketing is that an individual needs to see something an average of 11 times before they actually say, hey, let me go check this out. And then of those people that go to check it out, a very small percentage of them will actually adopt, right? Whereas if you're instead going after businesses, right, that already have a large user base,
Mm-hmm.
for each business you land, you're also landing a much larger percent of their user base. So you're right, you get more bang for your buck, you get more, results for time invested. It's just a much better way to approach things.
Yeah, you got that built-in credibility, which I think is huge for especially advertising a crypto wallet. Like if I was like scrolling on Facebook and saw a Facebook ad for a decentralized wallet, I would probably just scroll right past it thinking it's probably a scam. So being partnered with these projects that, getting that built-in credibility, I think is definitely a huge thing that's going to help you guys just grow way faster and more effectively with marketing dollars.
Yeah, we agree.
Another question from AJB. He says, if I am a cougar and I fall in love with a banker or electrician in the New Jersey area, they are in love with crypto, I put some money in the Flock wallet and something goes wrong, where and who am I going to contact to get help?
Well, as far as putting money in the Flock wallet, like let's say you transfer crypto, it would function the same way that you're currently used to moving money in the blockchain, right? So you grab the receiving address, you send it. So as any errors on that regard would be user error. Um, if on the off chance something happened with like one of our systems regarding like the cross-chain router, if a transaction gets stuck or something like that, well, we plan on having support staff in place for situations like that. So as these products and services grow, like when the corporate side of the flock wallet is out, we're going to need to hire support staff for these companies that are utilizing it, right? So we already do plan on making sure that we have staff in place to handle issues with products that we release. So if something happened with like the cross-chain router, you would contact the support staff for that. They could look into it, see what went wrong. If it is found to be something that somehow happened on our end, we would rectify the situation. Whether that's out of like funds that we set aside for that, or whether whether it's out of a credit, So yeah, we would have the systems in place for that. Currently, again, just with the Flock wallet in general, it functions the same way as a traditional DeFi wallet that you're used to. So it's all via blockchain. The only error that could occur is on the user end, at which point there's not really anything we could do about that since we cannot access it. That's not how it works since we're non-custodial. If you send it to the wrong Flock wallet or something like that due to inputting the wrong address, we can't just go into their Flock wallet and take the funds out, right? That's not how DeFi works. But I do love the the little story there. Cougar falling in love with a banker or electrician. Uh, what's funny is I know the individuals he's referring to. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch on a question that was right before that about the perks of the Flocker Social Club NFT ownership, because Parrotly does have NFTs and how partner so the question was from Burb TK. Can you tell us more about the perks of FSC ownership and how partner businesses will be leveraged for holders? Do you have any planned utility within the Parrotly ecosystem or the Flock wallet? So yeah, our NFT system for Flocker Social Club. It's 86 Matic to mint one, and we have a benefits program where any business, corporate or otherwise, that utilizes the Flock wallet systems is going to be required to provide a benefit or a discount to members of the Flocker Social Club. So as more companies onboard, that list of benefits they're receiving grows. Like right now, with our pilot partner Room 101, anyone who owns an FSC NFT, they get a standing 20% discount on all the jewelry products that they sell, right? So that's a pilot partner. But just as an example, let's say, because I love using this example since everybody's familiar with them, let's say Netflix decides they want to use our system, they would be required to provide like a discount on subscriptions to FSC members, right? So like I said, as additional companies onboard, that list of benefits grows. Right now, there's two benefits. With Room 101 and Capricat Creations, we understand they're kind of niche markets, but the purpose of having these pilot partners is, again, to generate metrics so that as these companies are onboarding, we can say, look, here's sales that were received from our two pilot partners, from our members. You're not really risking a whole lot because you're only having to provide a discount for up to a max total of 3,000 people, assuming each person only owns one, since there's only 3,000 of these NFTs, and there will only ever be 3,000 of these NFTs, and they provide you perpetual membership in this club, right? In the Flocker Social Club. So any future or current partner that provides benefits to the FSC members, you will have access to that as long as you retain at least one of the FSC NFTs. So yeah, and yes, we do have planned utility within the Parrotly ecosystem for these NFTs. Can't really go into detail about that without triggering the promise of profit. And the SEC won't let me be, to quote Eminem. So,
Perfect quote.
I can't. Yep. So I can't really tell you what those utilities will be at this point, but I can just tell you about the benefits, since that is something that is actively ongoing. But yeah, appreciate the question.
Gotcha. I got one last question, and then we can wrap it up. But I heard that you were participating in a chess tournament coming up here.
What was that
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What's that about?
so yes, the Cardinal House is actually going to be hosting a chess tournament. It is a bracket style. It's going to be 16 leads, or apparently, certain communities can nominate particular members of their community that stand a better chance at winning. But um, yeah, so it's a bracket style chess tournament, and it's going to be pretty cool. You guys are going to want to tune into that. It's really, especially if you're a community member of one of those 16 projects, because there's going to be great visibility, and you're going to get to see which one of your project leads is the smartest.
Can I add to
Yeah,
that for 1 second?
it certainly isn't me. I'll tell you that much. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so there will be giveaways going on. It's going to be a few hours, as we go through all the rounds. Right now, we do have a couple different projects where we're in the process of getting Sim from Sphere. We have Titano. We have a few different people. I think we've already announced some of the people that we have kind of casting it with us. But it's gonna be a big event. We're just gonna be having a good time. Like I said, there's gonna be some giveaways. So even if you guys are just tuning in the background just to see what happens, just be aware that you have the chance to get given away some cash.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great opportunity for everybody to just kind of hear about all sorts of other projects as well, because winners will be able to, of each bracket will be able to have the opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about their project for a couple minutes, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I wish the best of luck to the other participants. Zach can elaborate on that if he wants.
Yeah, they
They'll
got done
need
with
it.
their
They'll need
training.
it.
Zach,
This guy
how
comes
many?
in, plays chess with me, says that he hasn't played in 18 years, and then 4-0s me. Come on, man. Stop the cap.
Well, it's true. It's true. I like the only playing that I've done recently was against my 5-year-old daughter, and but when I was 15, I used to be in a chess club. If that counts. But yeah, no, I like chess because it's all about calculations and tactics, and that's kind of up my alley. So yeah,
He's talking about
looking
a
forward to
20-year plan. He's trying to play chess for 5 minutes.
Oh,
But yeah, it was great having you on again. I always love our talks, whether they be on stage or just hanging out playing some chess. But it's always great to hear your thoughts on things, crypto related, not crypto related, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'm really excited to hear what you guys have coming up next whenever we do bring you on after you've released some more of your info that's coming out.
yeah, definitely. I'll have to come back and chat with you guys about the product that we're working on alongside the Flock wallet, and I'll have to come back to chit chat with you guys, about the NBS once I can talk about that. So I look forward to the chess tournament. I look forward to chatting with you guys again. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Have a great rest of your day.